On the eve of the engagement, my boyfriend Ethan and his female best friend got a marriage certificate at a nightclub. Ethan, however, acted indifferently, saying, "It's just a joke, we'll divorce tomorrow. Everyone knows Nina and I are just brothers." The female best friend, however, provocatively said, "A day as husband and wife means 100 days of grace, you're all just watching the fun without preparing wedding gifts for us, huh?" The people at the table burst into laughter. "Sure, I happen to have a project in the western suburbs, I'll take it out as a wedding gift for you. But the drinking table has its rules, if you want it, you have to win at dice." I said nothing more, just sat down at the table, meeting Ethan's furrowed brows with a faint smile. "Isn't it about rolling dice for wedding gifts? I'll join in too." As I settled down beside them, there was a moment of silence at the table. Ethan reached out to wrap his arm around my waist. "All right, stop messing around, Serena. We're just having some drinks and joking, go home and sleep early." I subtly stepped back, avoiding his embrace, with a calm expression, looking towards Nina. "Don't get handsy, today, she's your wife." Ethan's face darkened, his tone somewhat impatient. "I've said it many times, Nina and I are friends. If there was really something between us, what would that have to do with you?" I didn't respond further. I'd heard such words too many times, because of Nina forgetting our dates, because of Nina leaving me alone on the roadside, because of Nina getting drunk and him rushing out at night to pick her up by taxi, and now passionately getting a marriage certificate in a nightclub. In the end, there was always one explanation: we're friends. The atmosphere became somewhat awkward. Seeing this, Nina approached again and directly sat on Ethan's lap. "All right, say less." Then she looked at me with a smiling face. "Serena, there's really nothing between Ethan and me. Today we just got carried away with drinking. Tomorrow we'll go divorce. If you mind, I'll apologize to you." As she spoke, she lowered her head, picked up the bottle on the table, and started chugging it. Ethan's expression changed. He reached out to snatch it, scolding loudly, "What are you doing, drinking so much?" When he looked at me again, his face was extremely ugly. "Serena, don't go too far." I couldn't help but smile self-mockingly. "It's fine, I'm not someone who can't take a joke. I happen to have nothing to do today, and don't you always say I'm not sociable?" Everyone at the table was stunned for a moment, then quickly smoothed things over. "That's great, Serena, we've long wanted to invite you to play together, but Ethan always keeps you hidden away." The speaker was Ethan's longtime friend Mason. He winked over there. "Ethan, come over and take care of Serena." Ethan, however, just sneered, leaned back on the sofa behind him, pulled Nina to sit back on his lap, and wrapped his big hand around her waist. "Don't look at me, tonight, this is my wife." Seeing that I was still smiling faintly without any other reaction, the people at the table started cheering. All right, happy newlyweds. What were we saying about how to play just now?" Nina navigated the crowd with ease. She laughed loudly and explained, "The old drinking table rule, roll dice. But today with the good girl Serena here, we definitely won't play our usual way. Let's accommodate and just compare sizes. The loser, besides drinking, since we're celebrating my and Ethan's wedding today, has to add stakes." Upon hearing this, everyone clamored, "That won't do. Who in our circle doesn't know that you, Nina, and Ethan are dice experts? Now that you two are a family, where's our chance to survive?" Ethan's hand stayed on Nina's waist. Without glancing at me for a moment, he scoffed, "Then just admit defeat." Upon hearing this, Mason immediately got anxious. He took off the Patek Philippe from his wrist. "I'll put up a stake first. This watch just arrived last week, buddy." The bar's music and dance beats grew louder. The atmosphere fully set, others started removing jewelry and luxury watches from themselves. Another girl, Yaya, threw down a Van Cleef Arpels bracelet. Ethan said nothing and removed his custom Hermes cufflinks. My gaze froze. That was the commemorative gift I gave him. Nina was still excitedly on her own. She pinched Ethan's hand coquettishly. "I want that bracelet, hubby, win it back for me." I said nothing, removed my diamond-studded earrings, placed them on the table. "Congratulations on the wedding, I'll play too." The atmosphere at the table froze for a moment. Ethan's hand around Nina's waist seemed to tighten a bit, his brows furrowed, looking at me with displeasure and warning in his eyes. Nina was first stunned, then laughed coquettishly and pushed Ethan. Alright, little sister Serena wants to play too, then we have to entertain her well. Mason quickly smoothed things over. Yes, play around, it's lively. Serena, the rules are simple, compare sizes. The one with the smallest points drinks a glass of wine and has to pick an item from the stakes to give to the one with the largest points as a wedding gift. He pointed to the piled-up luxury watches and jewelry on the table. Of course, if you're heartbroken, you can just drink and not give anything, but that would be no fun. I nodded, indicating understanding. The dice cups were distributed to everyone. Nina shook hers skillfully, Ethan casually shook twice and slammed it on the table, but his gaze always fell on me. I turned my face away to avoid his intense gaze. I picked up the dice cup with indeed clumsy movements, even appearing somewhat awkward. In the gaps of the music, I could even hear some discussions. Serena is famously a good girl, what is she doing here? It's such a buzzkill. She's here to assert sovereignty, but Ethan isn't giving her any face at all. My face paled a bit. Nina chuckled lightly. Tisk, Serena, do you want me to teach you the standard posture first? I ignored her and just imitated shaking a few times, then gently put it down. Open. The dice cups were revealed. Nina, 5 and 6, 11. Ethan, 2 5s, 10. Others had varying points, high and low. Finally, mine, the cover lifted, 1 1, 1 2, total 3 points. The table instantly erupted in laughter. 3 points. Ha ha ha, the smallest. Serena, your luck. Mason held back laughter and pushed a glass of liquor in front of me. Admit the bet and lose, drink, and also. He glanced at the earrings on the table. Ethan finally spoke, his voice cold and hard. If you can't play, don't show off, just drink the wine. Nina snuggled in his arms, smiling brightly. Oh, the first round is so small, looks like tonight's gifts will cost Serena dearly. These earrings have great quality, I'll graciously accept them? I looked at the glass of wine and then at my earrings, which were the pink diamonds Ethan splurged on at the auction last year. Back then, he said he wanted to give me the best things in the world. I smiled self-mockingly and gently pushed the earrings to the center of the table, towards Nina. Admit the bet and accept the loss. I raised my eyes, my tone calm and steady. The gift is presented. Ethan's face instantly darkened. Nina laughed coquettishly, reached out to pick up the earrings, and admired them carefully under the light. Thank you, little sister Serena, they're really beautiful. Mason hurriedly said, come on, second round, second round. The game continued. Nina rolled a 9, not big, but her next player, Ethan, directly rolled 12 points, full points to kill all. Wow. Hubby is awesome. Nina cheered. Everyone started cheering. Mason explained with a smile, according to drinking table rules, this full point kills all, you can designate any stake on the field. Ethan didn't look at me again, just held Nina intimately, then let my wife tonight pick for herself. What do you want? Nina's gaze scanned the table and finally fixed on the unassuming platinum bracelet on my wrist. I think Serena's bracelet is quite unique, that one? My hand holding the wine glass paused almost imperceptibly. This bracelet was my grandmother's heirloom, I never took it off, and Ethan knew that. There was a moment of silence at the table. Nina called out again, what's wrong? Didn't we say anything can be a stake? Little sister Serena isn't unable to afford to play, right? Or is it? I opened my mouth, but was coldly interrupted by Ethan. Drinking table rules, admit the bet and accept the loss. Serena, hand it over. I suddenly raised my head. My eyes heated up, I almost shed tears on the spot. No matter how he favored Nina, I endured it, but I didn't expect him to humiliate me to this extent. A flash of impatience crossed Ethan's face, his outstretched hand showed no intention of retracting. Even Mason beside him sensed something wrong. What's with the bracelet? Nina, bro will buy you 2 more. Nina's face turned cold. Didn't we agree before sitting at the table? If you can't afford to play, don't play. Ethan sneered. Serena, I just told you to go home, you insisted on playing. I said, hand it over. My hand involuntarily trembled slightly, holding back tears. I removed the bracelet. Ethan didn't even look and directly threw it to Nina. She just looked at it under the light for a couple of glances, then pursed her lips, looking like this, "It's nothing special." She casually threw it on the table. Coincidentally, someone bumped the table, knocking over a wine glass, spilling red wine all over the bracelet. I unconsciously clenched my fist, feeling like a huge stone blocked my chest. Until Nina started urging coquettishly again, "Continue, what are you all stunned for?" Third round, I rolled 7 points, neither big nor small. Nina 9 points, Ethan surprisingly 2 ones, at the bottom. Nina chuckled, "Hubby, your luck isn't good." Ethan ignored her, about to drink the penalty wine sullenly, but Nina beat him to it, drinking the glass from his hand and blinking, "All right, who made us husband and wife tonight as one?" Listening to everyone's cheering, I gradually became numb. In consecutive rounds, I seemed always on the edge of danger. Wine went down glass after glass, and the jewelry on me was basically all lost. Even the new Chanel handbag I brought out today was lost to Nina. Until my cheeks flushed red, my eyes started to blur, and my hand holding the dice cup even had a subtle tremble. To others, this was clearly a sign of getting carried away. Another round, it was the banker's turn. "Mason, to set the rules, always comparing sizes is boring. This round let's change the play, bet on points. If you think you can roll above 8, follow and double. Stakes have to increase too, small plays are no fun." Nina immediately responded, "I'm in. I bet my boutique buyer store in the West City." She had many properties under her name, this buyer store was one of them, of considerable value. Everyone was in an uproar, the bet started escalating. Ethan glanced at me and said faintly, "I'm in, I bet my yacht named Southbound." This yacht was worth millions, and more importantly, it was named after both of us. The pressure came to me. Everyone was looking at me. "Serena," Ethan finally couldn't hold back and spoke, "That's enough, you can go home." Nina immediately scoffed, "Ethan, if you can't afford to play, don't play, little sister Serena might be on a hot streak." As if stimulated by this sentence, I suddenly looked at her, "I'm in. I bet, my apartment in Shallow Bay under my name." As soon as these words came out, even Ethan was stunned. That apartment was one of the important assets my parents left me, with an excellent location and market value far exceeding Nina's buyer store. The dice cup started again. Nina opened first, 9 points. She raised her eyebrows smugly. "Ethan, 7 points." I couldn't help but take a deep breath, my hand holding the dice cup trembled a bit. The cup opened, 3, 5, 8 points. Lost, just by a bit. I leaned back on the sofa somewhat exhausted, in my ear was Nina's cheering. She was very close to me, whispering in my ear in a voice only we could hear, "How does losing feel?" "Everything you have, I want it all." I raised my head, my cheeks red from intoxication, but my eyes bright, again. Once the floodgate of bets is opened, it's hard to close. In the following rounds, the stakes quickly turned to more substantial assets. I sometimes lost some less important jewelry or small investments, sometimes luckily won back some. I performed like a standard gambler, gradually getting carried away, pale when losing, excited when winning. The stimulation from alcohol and the game made me look somewhat out of control. Ethan tried to stop several times but was blocked. His brows furrowed tighter and tighter. I couldn't help but smile self-mockingly inside. Perhaps in Ethan's heart, he still thought I was just fooling around, waiting for me to return to his side as usual and seek his help in the end. The dice game seemed to become a miniature battlefield. When I once again narrowly won one of Nina's media companies, she finally couldn't sit still. "Serena, good luck. Dare to play a big one?" I picked up the wine glass, tilted my head back, and drank the remaining liquid in one gulp. The alcohol burned my throat and also burned away the last trace of hesitation on my face. "Why not? You say, how to play?" Ethan wanted to speak, but Nina pressed him down with one hand. "Just the next round. We're all in. I bet all my shares and real estate under the Song family. What about you? Dare to follow?" The whole place instantly fell dead silent. All in. This was betting all their respective apparent net worths. Everyone's gazes focused on me, waiting for my answer. I lowered my eyes, silent for a full 10 seconds. Fine. I'm with you. I bet all my assets under my name. The entire booth area was silent as a pin. Ethan suddenly stood up. Serena, are you crazy? Do you know what you're saying? I smiled lightly. Ethan, on the gambling table, no jokes. You, scared? Nina also stood up, grabbing Ethan's arm. Ethan, since she's giving it away, why shouldn't we accept? Do you still feel sorry for her? She turned to look at me. Serena, words are empty, immediately have your lawyer prepare the documents. We'll do the same. Fine. I answered crisply, dialing my private lawyer in front of everyone, asking him to come immediately with the relevant asset proofs and drafted temporary agreements. Ethan gave me a cold look, don't regret it. Then, under everyone's gaze, he sat beside Nina, his attitude was clear, and the last trace of hope in my heart vanished. The lawyer arrived quickly. We three parties signed this temporary agreement adjudicated by a dice game. The dice cup was placed in the center of the table again. One round decides the winner. Mason's voice was dry. Still compare sizes, the one with the largest points takes all. Nina grabbed the dice cup. 5, 6, 11 points. A very large number. He picked up the dice cup, without extra tricks, shook it crisply a few times, slammed it down. Revealed, 2 sixes, 12 points. Full points. Wow. The whole place erupted in incredulous exclamations. Full points. Kills all. 1. Definitely 1. How to play now? Unless she also rolls 12 for a tie. How possible? That's full points. Nina excitedly hugged Ethan, then looked at me. Serena, looks like even heaven isn't helping you. Ethan also looked at me, his expression complex. Serena, admit defeat now, those you lost before, I can consider. I just quietly gave him a last look. After all, from tomorrow, we'll have no more ties, then calmly took the dice cup, without extra movements, shook lightly, slammed it heavily on the table. The cup was opened, all eyes gathered here, everyone seeming to hold their breath. After a moment of silence, I heard Nina scream, how is this possible? Under the dice cup were not 2, but 3 dice. 2 bright red sixes, like Ethan's full points earlier, but there was one more, a bright red one. They had just easily won me with a 1, now, I return it to them with this one. 3 dice, total 13 points. Th3? Mason was the first to cry out in shock, his eyes almost bulging out. How are there 3 dice in the cup? I couldn't help but smile sarcastically. As long as the technique and force are right, I can easily split that die into 2 halves, forming the current 13 points. At this moment, my eyes were clear, although my face still had a flush. In my gestures, where was there any sign of intoxication? 13 points, admit the bet and accept the loss. You lost. From the beginning when I sat here, I never thought of turning back. I gave Ethan too many chances, he chose that good bro time and again, leaving me behind. Now, openly getting a marriage certificate, allowing her to humiliate me, so all this is the consequence he deserves. Just drinking table dice, back when I was dominating the gambling tables in Macau, the people in this room probably couldn't even count the points. In the past, I played in the world, and only when I had enough did I go home to be a good girl. I originally wanted to spend my life with Ethan, reaching this step today is their own fault. Ethan suddenly pushed away Nina who was still hanging on him, stepped to the table, staring fixedly at the 3 dice, then lifted his head to stare at me. Serena, you. Nina then woke up as if from a dream, her eyes red from losing, she pounced to tear at me. Serena. You bitch. You schemed against us. Give back our things. I easily sidestepped her pounce, she stumbled, almost falling to the ground, looking utterly disheveled. Miss Nina, mind your demeanor. I straightened my slightly disheveled collar, my tone indifferent, on the gambling table, win or lose by one's own ability. When I lost to you earlier, I wasn't this agitated. I no longer looked at their ugly state, turning to the stunned lawyer and assistant beside me. According to the agreement, the winner is decided. Please handle the asset transfer procedures as soon as possible. Those trifles I lost under my name, just consider them fed to dogs. I don't want them. But all that Mr. Ethan and Miss Nina bet, I hope to see the preliminary documents of ownership change before the sun rises tomorrow. The lawyer immediately reacted, respectfully replying, "Yes, miss, we'll handle it right away." Serena. Ethan's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot. You planned this long ago? You've been deceiving me all along?" I smiled lightly. Deceive? Ethan, compared to you and your good bro getting a certificate right under my nose, compared to you indulging her and provoking me time and again, trampling on what I cherish, compared to you setting up this game tonight to see me ruined and penniless, what is my little self-protection trick? I never thought of scheming anyone. It was you who allowed me to sit at this table. It was also you who personally pushed all the chips in front of me. Admit the bet, accept the loss. After saying that, I didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Behind me was Nina's hysterical crying and cursing, and the uncontrollable shocked discussions throughout the place. I took a deep breath, straightened my back. Ethan, Nina, the game is over. And your retribution is just beginning. Outside the window, the city lights were just coming on. I wrapped my cashmere shawl tightly, overlooking the city's night view. I had renovated this apartment just because Ethan liked the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. I truly wanted to spend my life with him. Pity. Behind me came the low conversations of the lawyer and assistant and the rustling of paper flipping. After a while, they walked towards me. Miss, the southbound yacht under Mr. Ethan's name, the 3 commercial properties in the East City, and 5% of the circulating shares of the Foo Group have completed preliminary changes. Miss Nina's assets are also being inventoried and received, expected to be fully clarified by afternoon. I lightly hummed, without turning back. The southbound that once held sweet meanings, the jewelry taken by Nina like trophies, now along with the foundations they relied on to be arrogant, all became documents on my table. Pity, I didn't have the imagined satisfaction, just some fatigue. The phone on the table vibrated continuously. Ethan's name flashed madly on the screen, then Nina's, and those friends who used to revolve around them. I looked at those names, like watching a silent play unrelated to me. I could probably imagine what the rhetoric would be if I answered, nothing but it was just a joke, why take it seriously? But I know, if the loser that night was me, they would only eagerly kick me out, using all mocking words to slash 2 deep cuts on my heart, ridiculing my overestimation of myself. Since they showed no mercy to me, why should I repay resentment with kindness? I silenced the phone, isolating all annoying sounds, except for work contacts, block all other numbers. Also, contact a few familiar media outlets and release the news. The assistant immediately understood. I picked up the warm water beside me and took a sip, the corner of my lips curling into a very faint arc. Let them know, the game rules have changed. Since they like to put me in the spectator's position and mock me freely, I don't mind letting them taste what it's like to become the center of gossip. The fermentation of public opinion was faster than I imagined. Ethan and Nina wild gambling in nightclub, lose fortune shocking reversal, good girl is actually gambling god? Various headlines flooded the internet and print media. I flipped through the news pushes on the tablet, my mood without much fluctuation. News of Master hospitalized and Foo Group stock price falling came one after another. I could imagine Ethan's current distress. His calls couldn't get through, messages sank into the sea. I wonder if he finally experienced the helplessness and coldness when I was repeatedly left on the roadside, forgotten appointments. My phone, from the day the asset transfer started, almost became his exclusive hotline. At first, it was crazy non-stop calls, later, only messages remained, from the initial commanding tone, Serena, answer the phone. Let's talk, immediately. To later anxious questions, do you have to be so ruthless? And finally starting to panic, Serena, I know I was wrong, answer my call, okay? You can take all those things if you want, let's not be like this. I didn't reply to any. Language in the face of fait accompli is laughably pale. He probably forgot how at the drinking table he coldly watched Nina provoke me, how he personally threw my grandmother's heirloom to her. I wonder if at this moment, that pair of passionately certified good bros still remember to divorce. Ethan looked for me for several days in a row. After discovering calls and messages were useless, he started squatting day and night downstairs at my apartment. Through the clear monitoring screen at the entrance, I could see him standing in the cold wind. His once meticulously groomed hair was somewhat disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled. Several attempts to rush in were still driven out by the security downstairs. Until the apartment manager called me somewhat awkwardly, "Miss Serena, he refuses to leave, we really have no way." I sighed and finally met him once. I always have to personally put an end to this farce. I gathered my coat and met Ethan in the apartment lobby. In just a few days, he had become sharply thin, the dark circles under his eyes couldn't be hidden, blue stubble emerged on his jaw. Upon seeing me, his eyes lit up, subconsciously rushing forward. "Serena, you finally agreed to see me." I stepped back, stopping his attempt to approach, calmly walking to the seat opposite him and sitting down. "Mr. Ethan, please sit. I don't have much time." This Mr. Ethan seemed to successfully stun Ethan. He stiffened in place for a moment, then sat down dejectedly. "Serena, I'm sorry." "I know, a sorry is too light." His eyes reddened a bit. "I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. That night I drank, I went crazy, I'm not human." He repented incoherently, repeatedly emphasizing the absurdity of that night, the role of alcohol, that he was just momentarily confused. I was somewhat dazed for a moment. The him I saw that night was worlds apart from now, and I didn't know how much sincerity was in this repentance. "Finished?" My expression was faint, calm and steady. "If it's just to apologize for getting the certificate that night, no need. It's just a piece of paper, I don't care." He suddenly raised his head. Then you." "Ethan." I looked at him calmly, as if stating an old matter unrelated to me. "Do you remember, on our love anniversary, I prepared for a long time, you said the company had a temporary meeting. I waited until the restaurant closed, and finally saw on Nina's Facebook that you accompanied her playing games all night at an esports hotel?" His face paled. "Do you remember, once I had a fever to 39 degrees, called you, you said you were accompanying Nina to pick a new car, told me to take some medicine myself. I took a taxi alone to the hospital for 4, phone died, sat in the cold hospital corridor until dawn?" His lips started trembling. "Do you remember, our first formal meeting with your friends, Nina in front of everyone called you aside for whispers, leaving me alone in the corner like a fool. When you came back, you just perfunctorily told me she was in a bad mood. That night, because I'm not sociable, you all teased me the whole evening?" My tone remained calm. With each thing I said, the color drained from his face a bit more, his body trembling almost imperceptibly. "And, on my birthday, you promised to accompany me to see the exhibition." Halfway there, Nina called, saying her home water pipe burst. "You left me at the suburban highway exit, told me to find my own way back." It rained heavily that day, I couldn't hail a car, walked a full 3 kilometers to find the subway station. "Ethan." I looked at his already pale face, saying word by word, "When you did these things, were you drunk every time too?" Ethan's face was deathly pale, mumbling, unable to speak. "Every time for her, you forgot our agreements, left me aside, allowed her to provoke and trample on my feelings, you were very sober. When you indulged her sitting on your lap, holding her waist, saying tonight she's your wife, you were very sober too. When you helped her force me to remove the bracelet left by my grandmother, watching it being stained by red wine, you were more sober than ever." My voice wasn't loud, but he suddenly lowered his head, hands inserted into his hair, letting out whimpers like a trapped beast. "Stop. Serena, please stop." His shoulders shook violently, as if about to shed tears any moment. "I'm a bastard. I'm the most damned bastard in the world. I didn't know. I didn't know I made you suffer so many grievances." "No, you knew. You just thought I would always be there, always forgive you, always, insignificant. He tried to reach out to grab my hand, but I avoided it. No, no, Serena. I love you. I really love you. I just got used to her existence. I thought that was bro loyalty. Seeing his collapsed state now, I just slowly shook my head. Too late, this realization came too late. Your love, and your bro loyalty to Nina, both make me feel disgusted. I stood up, looking down at his collapsed form. I heard your apology. But I don't accept it. Ethan, some wounds can't be healed with a sorry. Some trusts, once shattered, can't be pieced back. Between us, from the moment you chose to get the certificate with her, it was completely over. I turned and walked to the door without any lingering attachment. Behind me came Ethan's crying voice, no. Serena. Give me one more chance. Just one. I can't be without you. I really can't. My hand on the doorknob, without looking back. Back in the apartment, the grudges between us three in the circle had probably spread everywhere. Those who wanted to mediate also silently retreated. Former friends excitedly told me about Nina's current miserable state, losing most of her personal assets, her status in the Song family plummeted, reportedly severely reprimanded by the family. And her fair-weather friends now avoided her like the plague. She tried to find Ethan, but Ethan lingered all day downstairs at my apartment attempting to repent. Where did he have time to pay attention to her? See, in the face of interests, the friendship and favoritism they carefully maintained were so fragile. The last time I saw them was at a charity gala. This was the first time I publicly stood in front of everyone since that night at the bar. The moment I stepped into the venue, all gazes instantly focused. Sympathy, curiosity, inquiry, awe. I calmly accepted all the stares, my back straight. Ethan almost immediately broke through the crowd to come before me. He had become even thinner, with heavy fatigue and red bloodshot in his eyes. Serena, let's talk, okay? I know I was wrong, I really know. Nina and I have signed the divorce agreement. That day was just an absurd joke. I quietly looked at him, like looking at a strange passerby. I think we've said it very clearly before. Also, whether you and Miss Nina divorce or not seems no need to report to me. His face instantly turned pale as paper, lips trembling, but unable to utter a syllable. Just then, Nina rushed over from the corner. She wore an out-of-season gown, her makeup somewhat smudged, her face full of resentment. She pointed at me and shrieked, Serena. Don't be smug. The things you won with despicable means, our Song family won't let you go. I turned my gaze to her, with a trace of condescending pity. Miss Nina, legal documents, notarization records, all complete. If you're dissatisfied, welcome to court anytime. However, before that, I suggest you first handle your buyer store's tax issues, and the loopholes of misappropriating Song Group's public accounts to fill personal deficits. Relevant materials, my lawyer has prepared. I no longer looked at her, took a bag from my handbag, and handed it to the charity auction staff. The transparent bag contained some jewelry. Ethan lifted his head in disbelief. Serena, these are all things I once gave you. Yes, those gifts Ethan once gave me. I kept them carefully, thinking they were evidence of his love for me, using those cold jewels to numb myself, until he thoroughly woke me up with a marriage certificate. I glanced at him faintly. Yes, but I don't need them now. As for the southbound cruise, I find the name unlucky and have listed it for sale. If Mr. Ethan is nostalgic, you can participate in the bidding. After saying that, I no longer paid attention to his ashen look and turned to enter the venue. At the auction, Ethan was like crazy. As long as it was my collection, he bid recklessly. Items worth tens of thousands shot up to hundreds of thousands. His gaze always stared at my back, burning hot, almost melting me, but I never looked back. Late-coming guilt and affection, I really don't need. The accompanying friend looked somewhat hesitant. The Fu family has been greatly weakened recently. Ethan lost so many assets to you. How can he withstand such bidding? I lifted my chin to look straight ahead, tone faint. If he likes, let him bid. Consider it contributing to charity. The gala ended. I walked to the parking lot. The rain was heavy. Ethan still chased out, breaking through the bodyguard's blockade. Rainwater soaked him thoroughly, hair stuck to his forehead, no image at all. Serena. Serena. What exactly do you want to forgive me? I'll give everything back to you. All my things to you. As long as you come back. My hand pulling the car door stopped, slowly turning around. Water traces slid down his cheeks, indistinguishable if rain or tears. He looked so disheveled and pitiful. If it were before, I would surely feel heartbroken. But now, my heart was still as water. Ethan, my voice pierced the rain curtain, clearly falling in his ears, and also in my own heart. Did you forget? Admit the bet, accept the loss. The car door closed, completely isolating him outside, expelling him from my world. The car drove away steadily. In the rearview mirror, his dejected figure kneeling in the puddle grew smaller, finally disappearing in the depths of the rainy night. The wipers swung regularly left and right, like drawing a period for the past. My world finally quieted. And ahead is a brand new journey belonging to me alone.